Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Langer at the Mic Live. In case you haven't heard, the Montreal Canadiens, they made a trade today. They acquired Eric Staal from the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for third and fifth round picks in the 2021 draft. And don't mind the dryer back there. I decided to do laundry before deciding to go on the stream here now. And also, by the way, some news. I made my first TikTok. Yeah, that's right. I am giving TikTok a go right now, and I broke this whole thing down on my TikTok, so you can check that out at Mike Langer on TikTok, in addition to my Instagram and my Twitter. But yeah, so Habs, again, they acquire Eric Staal from the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for third and fifth round picks in the 2021 draft. They also will retain 50% of Eric Staal's cap hit. So that's a cap hit of $1.625 million on the Montreal Canadiens side. Obviously, first and foremost, this is great for Eric Staal because he gets to get out of the black hole that is Buffalo. That is the Buffalo Sabres organization, who, by the way, have now lost 16 games in a row. They're, I think, 2 or 3 games away from the record of most, or the longest winless, because it's technically not a losing streak because they lost some games in overtime, but still, it's a 16-game winless streak that the Sabres are on. So Staal gets to get the heck out of that, and he gets to join a team that is in the thick of a playoff race. So that's good for Eric Staal. For the Habs, I mean, obviously the Habs, they're in quarantine right now, or they're just, out of action because they have Armia in COVID protocol and Kotkaniemi as a close contact. They're both quarantining him on the COVID-19 list. And as far as I know, the games are still postponed through Sunday. And there's no official date on the rescheduling of all the games lost this week. It feels like almost like another bye week. It is essentially for the Habs. And I almost forgot that it's hockey season. But anyway, back to Eric Staal. The great thing about the Habs, or the great thing about this deal, is that the Habs essentially gave up nothing to get Eric Staal. Because even with the third and fifth round picks that they gave up in this upcoming 2021 draft that might not even happen, the Habs, they still have 2 picks in each of those rounds. They still have 2 third round picks and 2 fifth round picks. So essentially they gave up virtually nothing to get a veteran center at a position when they already have promising young centers, as we know, with Kotkaniemi and Suzuki and Paling in the minors and Danoa UFA and Evans, who's a fourth-line guy. But they're still very young and they're still very inconsistent, talking about Kotkaniemi, Suzuki, and especially Jake Evans. When I mentioned, it's that you could call up Ryan Paling because he's been at least producing goals in Laval, whereas Jake Evans hasn't really scored since like the first 10 games of the season. So at least now with Eric Staal coming in the building, you can keep Ryan Paling with Joel Bouchard in Laval, unless obviously there's an injury or something. But going to Eric Staal, though, he's 36 years old. He's a pending unrestricted free agent, but he is 3 years removed from a 40-goal season or a 42-goal season with the Minnesota Wild. I believe it was 2017, 2018. And he also has 51 points in 62 career playoff games. He's also a Hab killer. So the Habs, I mean, they won't face him. They wouldn't have faced him anyway, at least if the Sabres had somehow made the playoffs and made it all the way to the conference finals, and the Habs did, which would have been, 0.000 whatever percent chance. But bottom line is also Staal, even though he was bad this year with the Sabres, pretty much like everyone was, only 10 points in 32 games. Staal did have 52 points in 81 games in 2018-2019, and he put up 47 points in 66 games with the Wild in 2019-2020. So he might still have the tools of being a decently productive player. And again, he could be very useful in the middle six. And I see him taking away ice time from Jake Evans, obviously, and a bit of Nick Suzuki's ice time as well. Because right now, Nick Suzuki, on paper, is essentially the Habs' number 1 center. If you look at how the average ice time per game among the 4 centers is being distributed right now, Suzuki is number 1 at 18.41 per game as a 21-year-old. Danault is second at 16.41 per game. Kotkaniemi is third at 14.40 per game. Jake Evans is 11.20 per game. So if you give Staal those 11 minutes, 20 seconds, plus let's say 2 minutes of Suzuki's ice time, well, that's 14-ish minutes for Staal, 14-ish minutes for Kotkaniemi, 16 minutes for Suzuki, 16 minutes for Danault, which I believe is a pretty fair distribution of ice time among the 4 centers, which can obviously vary from game to game. So going to the concerns with Staal, though, again, he's 36 years old, so he is a very much a veteran guy, and there's a reason why the Habs got him for only a 3rd and 5th round pick, which is still really good given what Eric Staal has accomplished in his career. But Again, Staal does only have 10 points in 32 games with Buffalo right now, which is more about the situation than about the actual player, because all the Sabres are struggling right now. Even Jack Eichel, even guys like Jeff Skinner, Taylor Hall. Don't even get me started on Taylor Hall. But a more realistic concern is that Eric Staal has been a minus player for the last 3 seasons. He's a minus 20 on a Buffalo team, which again, I won't look too much into that, but still -9, -7 with the Minnesota Wild the last 2 seasons before that. Which again, I mean, if the Wild weren't a great team, they had a decent run in the bubble this past year, but still, the fact that he's a minus player, a little bit concerning if he's not great if he isn't that great defensively at this point in his career. Then if you look at faceoffs, the Habs we all know how much the Habs have been struggling on faceoffs this year, and Staal has been, I'd say, inconsistent in the faceoff circle because he was a 51% guy between 2017 to 2019. But the last couple of years since 2019 to 2021, it's been more between 48 to 49%. So it's not like 42% like we've seen Nick Suzuki at times, but it's also not like 55%. It's not like Philip Deneau at his best. And Philip Deneau this year in the faceoff circle hasn't been as great anyway. So from a faceoff standpoint, he helps a little bit, but not like, he's not like that 57% guy. He's not that guy that you're going to put out with the game on the line, either an offensive zone or defensive zone draw. You're up by 1 or down by 1, and you absolutely need the faceoff win. That's not going to be Eric Staal. It's probably still going to be Philip Deneau at this point. And yeah, just like I said, it doesn't put the Habs over the top, this move, but what it does do is it increases their chances of making the playoffs by taking so much pressure off of Nick Suzuki, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and Jake Evans, who unfortunately, Jake Evans will likely be the odd man out, but not really unfortunately, because again, he just hasn't really produced much in terms of goals. He's a good penalty killer, Jake Evans is, but from a goal scoring standpoint, I think he has 2 goals on the season. So he's part of the reason why the Habs, I mean, he's a fourth line guy, sure, but you'd want more than 2 goals out of your fourth line guy, especially considering you look at the Leafs, like with what Jason Spezza is doing in a bottom 6 role. The Habs don't really have that right now at their center position. Obviously, we know Marner and Matthews and Tavares, right, at the 1-2 spot. But at least for the Habs standpoint, you need more production from the center. And yes, Damon Volchenkov, regular viewer, appreciate you too, man. Love you too, and I thank you for tuning in to every video here, every post game show, and every coach firing trade and all that. So really appreciate that, Damon. And so Staal will take off a lot of pressure off of Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, and it won't put the Habs. It won't be necessarily like an Ekholm deal per se. I mean, Ekholm is still maybe in play, but this is where the salary cap situation becomes very tight for the Habs, of course. But it allows them to have a greater chance of making that playoff spot. So the bottom line is, this was a very easy move for Mark Bergevin. Didn't have to cost him too much, and you got a good veteran center. You add depth to the center position, and again, you get to increase your chances of making the playoffs in a very tight playoff race right now. Obviously, Staal will have to wait the new 7-day quarantine instead of the 14-day quarantine. But before he joins the team, I believe he has to fly from Boston to Buffalo and then come to Montreal. And only at that point, the quarantine will start. The 7-day quarantine will start. But looking up next right now, the blue line is still a bit of an issue because we all know Sherrod is still out. And honestly, a name, I don't know if you guys will like this very much, but looking at at least based on the TSN top 15, top 20 trade bait list, whatever, Ekholm was one or in the top 3. Another name I saw that could be interesting is Alex Goligoski. I mean, he plays 22-ish minutes a night with Arizona. He's a UFA, $3.5-ish million, $4 million cap hit. Not really producing much this year, about 8 points in 30-ish games, but he's a puck-moving guy. He's a veteran that you might be able to get for cheap, but you're going to have to do some cap gymnastics to get that as well. And speaking of which, the Habs right now, in terms of their cap, this is with Paul Byron on the taxi squad. They have about $400,000 available in cap space right now. And we all know the big news of the day is that Wisconsin lost, which means that Cole Caulfield, I believe he still scored in the game today, but Cole Caulfield, his college career is over, and now we'll all be watching to see if and when he will sign his entry-level contract, and if he'll get right to the Montreal Canadiens or go to Laval. I said in a previous episode on my here on a podcast that I shot with three of my friends, Noah Single-London, Matt Cowan, and Stevie Consister. I mentioned that I believe that Cole Caulfield might get sent to Laval before coming to the Habs. But then again, given how well he's played at the college level, and given what the Habs are missing offensively, and given what Cole Caulfield can bring to the Habs offensively, that could be something where the Habs give Caulfield a chance right away. The audition, like the 5-10 game audition right away. And if he's no good, we'll then send him down to Laval and let him develop alongside Ryan Poehling, Jesse Ylönen, and all those guys that are tearing it up in Laval with Joel Bouchard right now. And yes, Damon, big picture, how you feeling about Weber till he's 40? Right now, I'm not feeling Weber really much at age 36, to be honest. That's been concerning. But then again, Weber is still playing his 24, 25-ish minutes a game. Why don't you bring that down to 22? Give those minutes to Petrie instead of Weber. And also keep in mind this week off because of quarantine. Again, they're going to lose hockey shape, sure. But the guys that are banged up and bruised, and the guys that are like guys like Weber who are playing a lot of minutes and they're older guys, this could be good for them this week off of quarantine without practice and all that. The same way that they came back in the bubble as strong as they were after 4 months off. I mean, this is a week and not 4 months, but maybe it'll have the same effect. Same thing for Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Nick Suzuki. Maybe it'll help them rejuvenate themselves mentally. I mean, KK is under the protocols on the COVID-19 list. I don't know if he's. I strongly. It's been suspected that Yoel Armia is the one that has COVID right now, but I'm not going to speculate any further. But either way, this time off could be good for the kids, for the young centers mentally, and the veterans, Weber, Petrie, Edmondson, even Sherrod, even Toffoli, who was supposed to miss 3-4 games this week. It would be good for them physically. So, yeah, hey, again, excited to have Eric Staal as a Montreal Canadian. Oddly enough, I actually, in my be a GM mode during quarantine last year, because obviously, look, we had to keep ourselves busy during quarantine, so I decided to do a be a GM mode on NHL 20. I actually traded for Eric Staal midway through what would have been the 2019 or 2020 season, and I think I actually ended up giving up more for Eric Staal than the Habs actually got in return here. I think I had to give up multiple second-round picks to get Eric Staal. So the fact that the Habs got him for like a third and a fifth, that just shows how good this deal is for this team right now. And yeah, I'm excited to see Eric Staal in a Habs uniform. I mean, it feels like with Corey Perry, Eric Staal, Shea Weber, like people have been posting on Twitter, they're basically trying to put the 2010 Olympics, Team Canada Olympic squad all together, and even the 2014 one as well. I think Price was on that team. I think Weber was on that team. I think Corey Perry was on that team. Not sure if Eric Staal was, though, in 2014. But, yeah, that's all we got here on this Friday night here. This Friday night edition of Langert the Mic Live, breaking down this Eric Staal trade as usual. Leave a comment and share your thoughts, just like Damon Volchenkov here. And, yeah, this has been of course, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mike Langer, and now on TikTok at Mike Langer as well. And this has been a trade breakdown here. We got one more comment from Mr. Valchenkov. If you think the Habs meet the Leafs in the first round, they're losing. Ooh, that's a tough one to answer right now, Damon. Honestly, we might see a complete. It all depends on how the Habs come out of this quarantine right now. Because if the Habs come out flat and if they just keep doing the same things that they've been doing before, like in the last month, like just the inconsistency, game to game, win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one. Look, that's how they could get to the playoffs. But if they play like that in the playoffs, I don't know if they're going to go very far. But you know what? With that being said, if they turn it around, they could absolutely beat the Leafs if they turn things around and if they play like they've been doing in the beginning of the season. And but will it happen? I need to see more for me to believe in that. So I would honestly have to say that from what I've seen so far between the Leafs and the Habs, might have to give the nod to the Leafs based on what I've seen, but that could definitely change with how the Habs come out of this quarantine. So, yeah, I actually got to get going here. I'm going to wrap it up, but thank you so much for tuning in to this Eric Staal trade breakdown here on Langert the Mic Live. And thank you so much for watching. I look forward to see you again next time, which will hopefully be sooner than later when the Habs schedule gets sorted out. But have an awesome night and a great weekend.